Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff. As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
The Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. We are previewing the NFL 2026 Scouting Combine. So we will be going over, what we are looking for, if there's some prospects that we're interested on what they're going to do, or parameters of what we should be targeting for results. But first, Jeff, we have a slew of news here. What was the first item?
We got to kick off on a somber note here on Lee Vikings wide receiver. Rondale Moore passed away at the age of 25. So he figured to factor into some teams' plan this year, and now that's just not the case. And unfortunately, a human life was lost in this week.
Yeah, came out of nowhere.
Yeah, doesn't feel real.
No, we were both hoping that he would have a little bit of a season here. If he re-signed or stayed with the Vikings, he would have been the wide receiver too.
Could have been. Could have took over for Addison.
Yep.
Great. Well, moving on from the horrible news to better news here, the Rams finally completed the coordinator positions for offensive and defensive coordinators for 2026 as they promote passing game coordinator Nate Shieldhouse to offensive coordinator. So this should be more of the same, and they also have Cliff Kingsbury under the roof.
Yeah, we're thinking that they were going to have Cliff Kingsbury be the OC, but that is not the case.
Probably going to be a senior assistant to the head coach or something like that. Because last I checked, he still does not have a job title yet, but I don't check every day. If that was updated, I'll update you guys next week on that. But some updates here on some head coaches giving up offensive play called in duty, and that is the Panthers head coach Dave Canales and the Broncos head coach Sean Payton. They're giving up offensive play calling duties to Brad Idzik and Davis Webb. What's your thoughts there?
I am more interested in the Davis Webb aspects because my issue with Sean Payton has been his play calling. My issue with Davis Webb as a candidate for head coaching is he's barely coached in the league at all and never been a full play caller. So he wasn't even a coordinator before this year. So now he gets to be a coordinator and a play caller. This will build his head coaching resume. And in the next year or two, he could be a legitimate candidate and not somebody that's just interviewing early.
Yeah, it's coming, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
You can kind of see it. All right. So the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks are for sale. So I don't know if I've ever seen a Super Bowl winner be sold right after winning a Super Bowl, but we are going to see that for the first time.
Yeah.
Right. We have the Niners going to be hosting a game in Mexico City. They're going to have a very brutal schedule with an Australia game and a Mexico City game in 2026. So I'll personally be fading the 49ers this season. And we also have the Lions going to be playing a game in Munich, Germany in 2026. I don't know if they'll be the host team or the away team yet. That has not been disclosed.
I wonder if the situation in Mexico is going to stabilize by the time they play a game there. Because right now, it's pretty chaotic. You have cartel wars going on. So we'll see if they keep that.
Absolutely sad time there, too. So more horrible news going on in the world. But I could see if they moved it to like San Antonio or something like that, like gave a city that in the States that doesn't normally get a game. So all stuff to pay attention to over the next weeks and months. And we have our very first free agent signing. It's actually a extension. And as Alex and I both projected 2 weeks ago, the Cowboys and Javonte Williams agree on a 3-year contract extension.
Yeah, I'm surprised it was actually that cheap, but I know other people think it's on the expensive side. I don't. I think it's fairly cheap, but it will make guys like Tyler Algier and it will make guys like what, Dottle more expensive for teams than they probably anticipate. So I expect free agent running backs to actually get paid, even those that aren't actually, your typical tier starter.
Absolutely. And as one running back gets re signed, we have the Patriots cutting running back Antonio Gibson, who is recovering from an ACL tear. So they do save some money here against the cap. I do believe they have their 2 first running back slots locked down. So he makes Gibson expendable at this point.
Yeah, I hope that means more work for Henderson and they figure it out going forward.
Absolutely. And we have the Falcons officially franchise tagging Kyle Pitts. So their tight end will be back for year 6. So it's kind of interesting to tag him a whole week and some change before the deadline. That tells me that they're not even remotely close or remotely interested in signing him to a long-term deal. So this is interesting this far out, and I don't have hope that they'll reach a long-term agreement going to July.
Yeah, I don't see them working out a long-term deal because they want to see if he can do it again and how he works under the new coaching staff. If he continues his success and his trajectory with touchdowns is each year he got one more touchdown. So 2021, I think, is when he was drafted. He got 1 touchdown. 2022, he got 2 touchdowns. 2023, 2024, 4. 2025, 5. So 6 touchdowns and 1,000 yards would be insane for him. And
Yeah,
I
he
think
would be a
he'd get
guaranteed
a,
top
a
8 pick.
deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that would make him expensive for the Falcons going into 2027. So if they want to keep him or tag him again, I mean, tag the
Well,
second time
wouldn't
is an option.
wouldn't Cousins' deal be off the books, and they might clear Pierce's deal off the books as well?
Absolutely. I mean, if they really wanted to re-sign him right now, they could figure a way to write his contract around that, but it does not seem like they are interested. Right. But speaking of franchise tags, we have a couple likely tags. They're not official yet, but the Cowboys are likely to franchise tag wide receiver George Pickens, and the Jets will either franchise or transition tag running back Breece Hall with the hopes of signing him to a long-term deal. So that tells me they will likely match anyone that does present an offer.
Yeah, wow. I think Pickens probably doesn't get a long-term deal with the Cowboys, and I think Breece Hall, the Jets really seem like they want to keep him. He seems open to re-signing with them. I would say if they're serious about keeping him, they'll probably actually franchise tag him because no one is going to want to take on that heavy of a contract as well as give up significant assets for him. Whereas transition tag would indicate to me that they actually want to trade him.
Yeah, they just come in a lower dollar amount and they're banking on someone not wanting to do the legwork for them to a deal. And that's kind of what a transition tag has been historically, is make the other team come to an agreement with the player and then you're like, I'll just match it. So you let the market set his market value. And if it's within reason, you keep them. And if it's not, you say bye, go way down their
Yeah.
bucks. So it does sound like they have every intent of keeping their best or second best offensive player in what
Just
figures
want
to
him to
be.
be free. I want him to run free on a better team.
Yep. He figures though to we'll see what happens with Aaron Glenn, and this could be his last year as a head coach. We will see. All right. Any other league news that you can think of? I know there's a whole bunch of rumors swirling out there, but we are about 2 weeks away from free agents.
Well, the Texans general manager Nick Caserio put to bed any rumors of Stroud being on the block or being traded. He said it's moronic to even bring the conversation up, and he is the 2026 starter. Kind of left the door open for if things don't go well this year, they might move on from him next year, but shut down any trade talks this offseason.
Absolutely. And then all the backup quarterbacks are in trade talks right now or in rumors. So we will see what this quarterback carousel looks like for this offseason.
Okay, well, speaking of quarterbacks, our combine preview, we have quarterbacks up first. And Jeff, what's the public service announcement you want to tell everybody?
Hey, before we get down to the nitty gritty of the prospects here, the combine does not create prospects, it confirms or exposes them. So that's all we should be looking for in the combine, and we should be looking mostly for frauds, I would think. But that's my take right now. This is my first full combine from start to finish.
Yeah. What we have learned over the years, and what Jeff always says, is it's a what, Jeff? What
The
is the
underwear
combine?
Olympics.
Underwear Olympics?
Yep.
People get too excited over fast 40 times, and that's not indicative of anything. Like, fast 40 times don't really mean anything. Now, slow 40 times is concerning, but we're looking for, does tape match athleticism? And if tape is good and athleticism is good, they're likely going to be a good player. Assuming their head is screwed on right. But Jeff, why don't you break us down quarterbacks and your notes on what we should be looking for here?
So the quarterbacks that I am looking for this week, and I'll just list them off: Fernando Mendoza, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, and Drew Aller, Ty Simpson, and Garrett Nussmeyer. And out of those, Mendoza is not going to be throwing. He's taking the easy and the safe way out because he is the projected 1.01 right now. Carson Beck needs to work on his ball placement and footwork, and if those show up, then he could move up draft boards. Klubnik was a big prospect going into his senior year, but he fell based on the results of his senior year. So he needs to show some speed, and hopefully he can latch on with the right team for him. Eller, he has the tools, but he needs someone that could polish them, and that's not going to be every coach. So he just needs a team or two to fall in love with him, and he needs some timing work as well. Ty Simpson, performance will determine if a team takes him in the first round. He is a fringe first round pick, so he could solidify that. And Nussmeyer is my most interesting one here. So we have Mendoza, Klubnik, and now Nussmeyer are like my three that I'm really watching this weekend. He figures to fall out of the first, but so that means that he could land with all 32 teams. All 32 teams will have a shot at him, and a great showing could really make a team want him. So
Yeah. So a year ago, Klubnik, Allar, and Nussmeyer were three big names that were in contention to be the first quarterback taken before the college season played out, and all of them had disappointing years. Allar got seriously hurt. Nussmeyer had, I think, a shoulder or pectoral issue that affected his throwing, and Klubnik just disappointed overall this year. They all had really solid 2020s, so that's what scouts are mostly going to be looking at, and they're going to want to see these guys in action throw at the combine and at their pro days. Mendoza and Simpson came out of nowhere. They weren't really on the radar for people until this year. They both performed pretty well this year. Simpson has only started 1 year. Mendoza looked really good in a stacked Indiana team. So people are wanting to know, was it the system in Indiana that made Mendoza good? Was Mendoza good and you just needed the right surroundings? It's a legitimate question. I've always maintained that I think Mendoza's a system quarterback that can thrive in a particular system, which is the Kubiak, Shanahan, McVay type tree, which is a good portion of the league these days. So he has a really good chance to thrive in the league if set up. Simpson's a project with high potential, very low floor. I don't think Aller's going to pan out personally. I think he's going to be another Aiden O'Connell, coincidentally enough, the same college. Klubnik and Nussmeier, to me, seem like the next guys that could be pretty solid. I mean, Nussmeier, there's a lot of comparisons with him and Tony Romo. Klubnik is somebody who could have performed better, but a lot of the complaints about him is he couldn't cut it in the ACC this year. And the ACC is considered an inferior conference to those of you who don't follow college football. But I think those guys have tools. I'm not really a huge fan of Carson Beck. I know he had some success on a stacked Georgia team a couple of years ago, and this year was on a stacked Miami team and made it to the national championship game. But I've seen a lot of Carson Beck, and I don't really think he's an NFL starting quarterback.
I would concur with all of that, and we'll see if anyone wows us during the throwing drills, or I'm assuming some 40 times would help. Yeah, it does seem like they're all going to participate in this except for Mendoza, so that's pretty exciting. But obviously, that's subject to change between now and Saturday when the quarterbacks go.
All right. Well, why don't you break us down your running back situations? They're also on Saturday. You have some criteria that you crunch some numbers to come up with some target drill numbers that we should be looking for.
Yeah, so I'm looking for running backs to run at least a 4.45 40, a 1.55 10-yard splits, and 36 on the verticals and under 6.95 on the three cone drill. And the weight for most backs should be between 205 and 210, but I do understand that there's some backs that may be outside of that if you're a pounder, up, and then down if you're a speed back. But you have to be a true speed back in order to be much lower than that. But everyone's first running back coming off the board is going to be Jeremiah Love. And it does appear that he will be testing in this, even though he is likely a first rounder and the first running back off the board. So that's a little bit surprising because he could actually hurt his draft stock here or solidify it. I mean, there is a possibility
Or get hurt.
Yep, that too. So he's someone that I would watch. So he might bow out beforehand, but might be a late scratch, as the horse racing folks would say. We have Jonah Coleman. He needs to show some receiving and some pass protection, and that'll really help his case. We have Nicholas Singleton. Burst is a must, and it's a need to overcome his limitations. We'll see what that looks like. Damon Claiborne is going to need a good 40 time to show pass protection, but if that does not pan out here, he could just be a change of pace back. And Alex and I were both excited about this prospect. I don't think enough people are talking about him. Katron Allen. He needs to show toughness, explosion, and speed testing, and he could be shooting boards. But he's someone that, for fantasy purposes, I would be looking at just because that combination doesn't exist very often. And we have Emmett Johnson. Impact and efficiency is going to be his biggest areas to look for. Seth McGowan is going to be looking for speed, and Mike Washington Jr. needs to show good power, decent speed. So he's someone that could be below the 4.45 and have good hands would help, because that would help him stay on the field in third down situations, at least some of them. And for fantasy purposes, we know a 1 and 2 down back is not going to cut it with a high pick. Arian Price, we have him working on pass protection, and Roman Hemby is looking for receiving drops. So he needs to minimize those in the receiving drills. And an interesting note here is Kalen Black from Indiana is not invited to the combine. So will he be someone that rises up draft boards during pro days? it could be because he will have a chip on his shoulder. So, Alex, who are you most excited for?
Well, I want to see Katron Allen on his explosive scores and agility. I want to see if he's just kind of a bruiser or if he can actually showcase some quickness and some explosiveness. I want to see Mike Washington. I don't know if he's actually going to do anything here. I want to see if he's also fast and explosive. He's someone that is very polarizing because you either have him in your top 5 or he's not even in your top 20, depending on who you are. So I'm interested in him. I would like to see if Emmett Johnson can run between the tackles. I want to see him do some physical drills because right now I have him as an outside guy and receiving back, and that would make him more of a change of pace. I like him enough that I think he could be potentially an NFL starter. Before my deep dive, he was actually in my running back 3 position, and depending on how some of these go, I might shift him down or keep him solidly locked. I don't really know that much about Damon Claiborne. I know he's a name that's talked about a lot, but I haven't watched a lot of him yet. It's on my list. I do think it's going to be interesting that you talk about us liking Katron Allen. He could be the better running back at Penn State over Nicholas Singleton. So I'm kind of curious how both of them test and how they compare. Jonah Coleman, someone that I want to see more of as well. Jadarian Price, I really want to lock down whether or not he really is the second running back for this year or not, or if people kind of overhype him. So those are the guys I'm most interested in. The other guys I don't think really stack up, but I could be surprised, and we'll find out in the combine if there's any surprising risers that might have to take a double check on.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a couple decent backs that come out of this, but picking those is going to be the hardest part. So, the undrafted ones, we've seen some good undrafted backs too. So we will see how they score and how they rise or fall. We'll see if Kalon Black uses this as a springboard to rise up draft boards as well. All right. Anything else from running backs?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right, move on to wide receivers, which are also Saturday. So the first 3 positions are on Saturday. For receivers, we're looking for clean hands. We have Carnell Tate is a guy that I'll be looking at. We need to see what his vertical scores look like, and a 4.4 or lower in the 40 time would be nice. Jordan Tyson, we're looking for contested catch and sure hands. That would have been really nice if he was participating. He actually announced recently that he is not participating. So I'm not sure if that's an injury thing or he just believes that his draft stock is completely locked, but it would have been nice to see him in comparison to the other ones in the same environment. We have Makai Lemon, and we're looking at the footwork of him. Denzel Boston route running drills. We're looking for separation with him. Casey Concepcion, we're looking for home run speed and verticals. And Zachariah Branch, we're looking for explosiveness and speed. Omar Cooper Jr., we're looking for some route running and hands. Malachi Fields, a fast 40 and separation and verticals would be really nice to see for the Notre Dame wide receiver. Chris Bell, he's doing only medicals. That's an interesting little caveat. And Jacoby Lane, we're looking for contested catches. And an interesting note here is Cincinnati wide receiver Cyrus Allen was not invited to the combine. So we'll see if he can use it as a chip on his shoulder during pro days to move up the draft board. But Alex, was there any people that I missed, and who are you most excited about?
I don't think that you missed any of my top guys. I will say Jordan Tyson has a injury history, which I'm concerned about, and that's probably why he will not participate because there's a good chance he can get himself injured. So I would stay out of it. Chris Bell did have an injury this year, so that's probably why he's doing medicals and not participating in drills. So that's just something to keep an eye on there. For me, Casey Concepcion, I want to see him run the gauntlet because I am concerned about drops with him. I'm concerned about being precise in route running and being a good technical wide receiver. He's a good athlete, but I'm concerned he's another Kadarius Toney. I don't think he's the head case that Toney is, but I do think that he is kind of a sloppy wide receiver that people fall in love with the athleticism of. So I don't really care about his speed. I care about him in the drills and him catching the ball. Carnell Tate, I don't really care if Carnell Tate runs a 4.4. If he runs a 4.5, I'll be okay with Carnell Tate. He's more of a route technician. I know he's been used vertical, but I do think he's a versatile guy that could be in the same vein as his Ohio State alumni and former teammates. So Carnell Tate right now is my number one wide receiver. Malachi Lemon is my number two. My concern with Malachi Lemon is competition in college, and he is undersized, and I do think people are comparing him too much with Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the Detroit Lions, and I'm not sure he's that caliber wide receiver, but he is, and in this list, he is my number two wide receiver prospect, with Tyson being number three. Boston, I want to see if Denzel Boston is a good route runner or not in his hands. He's my number four. I want to see for Omar Cooper, sorry. I want to see his speed. I think he could be a faster Debo if he tests well. I think that's really a comp for me. And I don't know if you have Sarrett on here, the other Indiana wide receiver. I like him, but he's not getting enough love because people think he's slower. So it would be interesting to see him as well. I do want to see Malachi Fields in both the gauntlet, and I do agree about the separation and 40 time concern. So I want to know what he tests as because he could rise for me if he's more athletic than I think based on looking on his tape.
Yep, sounds like we are on the same page a lot of this, and yeah, I did miss the second Indiana guy, so see what
Also,
his.
Aaron Montgomery. I don't think you have him on this list as well.
Nope. Tell me about him.
He was a Senior Bowl darling, and I think he's on the rise. He has pretty solid film. I haven't fully dived into him, but I'm intrigued by him, and if he tests well, I'm definitely going to look more into him, and I think he's going to rise for a lot of people on their boards.
Right. We will talk next week about the results of this. Before we wrap up our position talk of the combine, we have the tight ends actually kick off the weekend for position players on Friday. And for me, it's not that deep of a tight end draft, and I don't think there's that many elite or good talents in this draft as far as fantasy purposes go. But we have Kenyon Sadiq. We're looking for a sub 4.7 and some clean hands. Eli Stower. We're looking for a contested catch and short area agility, so we're looking for him to be able to get open in short areas. Max Clare, we're looking for a sub 4.740 and jump metrics as well. Michael Trigg, we're looking for the vertical jump as well. And Jack Endries, we're looking for hands and route running. And Oscar Delp, we're looking for hands, yak, and contested balls. So we will see if any tight ends show up and move up. But who did I miss, and who are you most excited for out of this group? Because it gets us kicked off with position players on Friday.
I'm not really excited about this tight end group at all, to be honest with you. I think it's full of guys that are going to be tight end twos on their team and be versatile. I think it's very deep on tight end twos, but even Kenyon Sadiq, I know everyone in draft media is hyping him up to be the first round tight end, and I think he probably will get taken in the first round. I just don't see him as the same level talent as the tight ends the past few years. He's not a Brock Bowers, he's not a Sam Laporta, he's not anything like that. I think if anything, he reminds me of OJ Howard, and that should concern everybody.
I loved him.
So Another guy he's compared to is Eric Ebron, which would be okay. If he's an Ebron, that's fine. I just don't count on him being like a top 10 or top 15 dynasty tight end anytime soon.
Yeah. Anyone else that catches your eye or you might be willing to move up or down based on their performance?
The other two guys that interest me are Eli Stowers and Max Clare, but they're like maybe bottom starters if they take off. They could surprise me, but I don't really have them. Like I said, they're not Brock Bowers level. They're not Loveland. They're not Tyler Warren. They're not Laporta. They're not like that. So we'll see.
Absolutely. And I know you're going to be paying attention to other positions outside of the fantasy positions. And what are your favorite other positions to watch during the combine?
Every position except for kickers and punters, basically.
Can be some good kickers out of this draft based on the Senior Bowl and the conditions.
Yeah, a lot of people like the Georgia punter, I think it is. There's a couple of other
Third
kickers.
round.
Some of the Texans beat writers I listen to, they want him for the Texans, which is kind of funny. But I am very curious about offensive line. As there are a lot of teams this year need offensive line, I'm very curious about the defensive backs. I want to look at what corners and safeties I think are going to end up cracking the first round, and it may shift from early projections. That to me is the most interesting. There's definitely some edge guys that are good, but I feel like I have a pretty good feel on edge, and there's a deep interior defensive line group this year that are going to go in the first in day one and day two, I should say. So I like all of the draft stuff.
That's awesome. Lots of guys running in spandex coming soon to a NFL network near you. Anything else that we'll be looking for in this combine?
I'm going to be very interested what coaches do what position drills and who they talk to the most. Try to get a feel for if they are going to convince their teams to draft them, like that kind of thing, and any rumors that come out of this. So you can get
Well,
your mocks ready.
yeah, and it's not just rumors about prospects that come out of this. There's GMs talking about trades and potentially even backdooring contract discussions here. So like if there's agents at the combine, they could be, so what your guy looking for type of thing. Like not having a formal conversation, but like just getting ballpark numbers of what the free agents could be looking at. So we could get some trades to come down on this. We could get some contract rumor news. We could get some draft news out of this. So this is like the official kickoff to the 2026 year. And with that being said, like this is where Kyle Pitts' franchise tag was announced. So like we are starting to get news trickling in. And the Dolphins last week had cuts, so I expect other teams to have cuts and restructures this week to try to get under the cap. So this is where the NFL news really starts to pick up, leading up to I think March, is it 17th or 19th? When is free agency? I believe that it will be the 18th. So, or no, the 11th actually. So we're actually a week away from that based on our
The
schedule.
11th is the opening of the league year, and March 10th is the legal tampering period. So we'll start to hear about deals trickling in
I love the legal
on March
tampering
10th.
period. It's my favorite. I don't know how much that I can pay attention to that day other than NFL news because it's deal, 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 deal.
Yeah. Let me look at my calendar because I might have to request off.
Uh, that's a great idea, and everyone out there that is an NFL fan like us should do the same. And it's even in my Google Calendar of when free agency kicks off on the 4 o'clock on Wednesday the 11th. So definitely keep that in mind. Also, the franchise tag deadline will be 4 p.m. on Tuesday the 3rd. So on our next episode, we should have all of the franchisees taggies, I guess is the best way to say that. And we should know who's going to probably be on their team next year.
I can't wait to see the flurry of activity after this draft or after this combine to see. I'm sure teams are going to be scouting now. They've been scouting, but they're going to be looking to see, hey, is this position deeper than I thought? Is it shallower than I thought? Should we be targeting X, Y, Z in free agency? Should we be trading? So it's
Well,
going to be
what you
interesting.
just said is why free agency happens after the combine, because you get to see what's available in the draft. And then if you're not happy or satisfied or don't believe you're going to have a shot at something good in the draft, then you pivot to the free agency or the trade market, which the trade market obviously could be picking up here relatively soon as well. Like, I know trades can't be officially done until March 11th, but we're about 2 weeks away from March 11th, so they could start to be announced anytime between now and then.
Yeah, and it seems like free agency has a lot of edge rushers available, older edge rushers for the most part. But trade market seems like there's a lot of wide receivers that could be on the move.
Yeah, we will see. We will see a lot of veteran wide receivers.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni basically said AJ Brown is probably on the move. I can't say
I
whether
think
he's going to
Howie
be on
said
the
the
team
same
or
too.
not. So I'm like, ooh, he's gone. We know
Yep.
Ayuk is going to be gone one way or the other. We suspect that Olave or Waddle could be on the move, although we talked offline and he's locked up until 20. I didn't realize. So they have no incentive to trade him. Especially, I don't know why the Bills fans think that they're going to get Waddle because that's in division trade and makes no sense whatsoever. Olave could be on the move. I mean,
Yeah.
Debo could be on a different team next year.
It's hard to see
Addison.
Olave not with the Saints given how him and Shuck looked last year. But that's a move that could stunt Shuck's growth, I believe. So we'll see if the Saints are stupid enough to do that or not, because there's some value in continuity.
Yeah. What do you think about the Chiefs potentially being interested in a wide receiver with what's going on with Rice?
I mean, it's possible. You know, they're going to sign one. That doesn't mean they're going to sign a top line guy, but they sign like the Hollywood Browns, the Tyquan Thorntons, and the Juju Smith-Schusters of the world. Like, so they sign like the C level talent.
Do you think it's more likely they go Tyreek Hill or they draft a wide receiver?
I mean, a lot hinges on Travis Kelce. They still haven't agreed to a deal yet, which has to be a little bit concerning, because like, what's stopping them from doing that right now? Either you got your figures or you don't. And if Kelce does retire or moves on somehow, like, why wouldn't they sign a veteran wide receiver then? Because they would need that veteran in place.
They also had Jalen Royals that they drafted last year that could potentially have an improved role this year. Or they could get Sadiq in the draft, or they could draft one of the top three wide receivers at number 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Just they have Rice and Worthy and Royals. That's a very young room. It would feel very Packers-ish to add another rookie deal to that room. I prefer to have that veteran guy that can show them the ropes, and maybe there's someone that trades for AJ Brown.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine the Chiefs and Eagles making that trade happen?
Yep, absolutely.
DJ
What?
Moore?
Yep, he's not guaranteed to be on the team, the GM said today, so that's an interesting thing to say, because you don't really say that about players that you want to keep. And I'm thinking, like, because what's unknowable about a player like AJ Brown is he's expensive. So the team acquiring him would have to pay him. And what does the trade compensation look like for an expensive player? It could be a lot lower than what we would expect. So an aging expensive player too.
What about Stephon Diggs? Is he going to stay with the Patriots this year?
He's expensive. So his current cap hit, he's a cap casualty, roster bubble guy. But we'll see if they acquire AJ Brown. I don't really see them paying both Diggs and Brown right now. I think they would let their young core continue to grow. So I think that would hinder them a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, those are some solid wide receivers, and it seems like Mike Evans is going to test free agency and actually leave Tampa Bay, which would be very interesting.
And he should. He should. But what if a team like Jacksonville signed Mike Evans and traded Brian Thomas Jr.? There's a lot of, because I'm thinking about him staying in Florida and staying warm and all that good stuff. So we'll see what they end up doing. What if Atlanta gets their second receiver and it's Mike Evans? Can't see him really going to Atlanta, but
Do they have the cap for it? But I
now
think if he was going to stay in Florida, why wouldn't he just stay with Tampa? I mean, they're probably, to me, they're like an equivalent level to the Jaguars.
yeah, they just don't have the cap and the salary that he would be looking for. So they also can't justify paying him, not playing Ibuka and Jalen McMillan, and playing Chris Godwin and Mike Evans again. Like, I don't know if they can justify the draft capital that they put up in doing that.
It's really funny that the Cowboys are tagging Pickens. I think
Trade him.
if they worked out a trade and they were able to trade Pickens to a different team, I think they would be a shoo-in to sign Mike Evans because he's from Texas, went to Texas A&M. I'm sure he's a Cowboys fan. I'm sure he grew up a Cowboys fan. So I think that would be a very interesting spot.
Absolutely. What about, I couldn't see him sticking around New Orleans or Carolina because that division is pretty intense. But he could have followed Dave Canellis to Carolina when Dave Canellis took the job, and he did not. So not that Carolina needs wide receiver help right now. They got a bunch of young guys.
Galveston, Texas. So if the Texans had a roster spot, that would be pretty awesome.
Yep. Do we think Tank Dell's going to start the year on the active roster this year?
He has a good chance to. I don't think I could quantify or qualify whether he starts there or not. I mean, I'd have to hear more news about his progress.
Yeah, the no news thing is kind of like scary, especially with injuries, because you hear injury news with players like Najee Harris and Zach Ertz and even Quinshon Judkins, all positive right now. So no negative news right now.
Well, the scuttlebutt is even if he never regains his form, they're going to keep him around as long as they keep CJ Stroud because they're besties. Kind of an Alan Lazard situation, but they're younger guys.
I don't know how you feel about wasting a roster spot on a best friend, but
I love Tank Dell, to be honest with you.
I know. He just has been injured after injured.
Yeah, I think with his slight frame, he's not going to stress his knee as much as a heavier wide receiver would. So I think he'll be okay, but I think you have to relegate him to 3 wide receiver sets, 4 wide receiver sets, not blocking, not in the red zone, which really limits his participation.
Sure does. Sure does. And hopefully we'll have a lot more news coming out of the combine next week.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading and listening to this episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Hi, everybody.